on mute, just so there's no sound interference, and I'm just gonna dive right into it. So basically, me and Angelica were talking the other day. We just had one of our regular like late night existential conversations about work and about life, and she said to me that she wants to see more uncommon, unique, raw, mind-blowing music videos coming out of Toronto, and overall more creative risks taken in video production. And I asked her what that meant and what that looked like, because we say a lot of things that we want to see in the city and in the creative industry, etc., but we never really explain how we would like that to happen, or our ideas to make that happen, which is fine, but that's why we're kind of having this conversation to figure out how we can do that more often. So without further ado, I'm just gonna let the guys introduce themselves. So Angelica, if you wanted to start and just let everyone know who you are.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Angelica. I am a video director and editor. I'm from Russia, so I grew up there, and then I moved when I was 14. I'm also currently in third year Ryerson for film production as a student. And yeah, I've just, been directing for maybe just a little bit over a year. And before that, I was just working my way up kind of like in the industry, like from PAing to, then I was interested in art direction, and then I was interested in producing a little bit, but then I was interested in editing. But like all along, I was still like making my own little projects. And then just kind of like after learning about everything, I just thought that I can take it to the next step and start working with like other artists and like other filmmakers together to make projects. So that's how it started a year ago for me.
All right. Hi. Yeah, my name is Xylk. I make stuff. What's this called? Yeah. First of all, I just want to start with like thanking everyone for taking the time to like be here.
Cool background, bro.
There we go. Jeez. Yeah. Thanks for joining our little conference talk and discussion. I just want to say right off the bat that this topic to me personally is very, very important. I feel like it's long overdue a little bit for me to share my opinion. So thank you, Mikayla and Angelica, for joining me. Yeah, for having me.
No problem. And then just to be brief, so I, like I said in the beginning, I produce videos and a lot of short form content, and I work with Angelica a lot. So she's a really good friend of mine, inspires me all the time, and same with Xylk. So I wanted to bring these two guys together because even though they do two completely different things, they both, I feel like, have the same kind of drive. And I really wanted them to connect on something like this, and that's why you're all here, to maybe connect on that as well. So I'm just going to jump right into the first question. And by the way, for anybody listening, if you guys have any questions that you want to ask the guys, just put it in the chat, and I might choose one throughout the conversation to ask the guys if it seems appropriate for the time. So Angelica, this one you guys can both answer, but I'll kind of direct it more towards you.
Sorry, give me one second. Also, too, I just want to say that, Angelica is going to be sharing a lot of, like, her opinions and wisdom, and so am I, and so is Mikayla. So if you guys like anything you guys hear, please do not, please do not, please feel free to have a pen right beside you. I have a notepad with me, so like really taking notes about on the key points and things that you like and take away from this, because I don't want this to be like another conversation that you guys just kind of like looped in on. I want it to be you guys after this conference call, you guys come out of it with like 3 main points. I don't want it to just be like broad, you know what I mean? We hope that you actually came out of this with like 1 main point, 2 or 3 main points, and you and we help you in whatever way that we can, opening your mind or whatever. But yeah, please, I want this to be, I hope that we can be there we go. There's the notepads. I hope that we can be really productive and fruitful within our discussion. You know what I mean? It's all about like the love that we have for what we do, and a little bit of frustration in the current state that we have right now, especially being in this isolation. So go ahead, Sarah.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. I totally kind of went over, like, forgot to say that. So thanks for saying that. But so to get into the first question, Angelica, when you said that to me the other day, you were like, I want to shift it. And like, that's not something I haven't heard before, but it was just like in the moment, I really wanted to like ask you, well, how do you see that? Like, what do you mean? What is it? What does that look like for you? So if you can kind of briefly talk about that, like, what do you mean when you say you want to see more risk-taking content coming out of Toronto?
So, as you know, I bring it up in like every conversation. I watch, like, the majority of stuff I watch is not from Toronto or not from even America. I'd say, like, I watch a lot of like European stuff, Russian stuff, Ukrainian, Belarus, like anywhere there, like Asia, a lot of it. And I don't think it's because like I just like, or I know a lot about those cultures, like even though I do know some about Russian culture or like European culture, I feel like they just make me, just watching those things, like it really makes me feel more emotion, more like creativity, like really like lights a fire under like me, and it just makes me like want to like, go out there and create. But like a lot of the times when I watch something like that's coming out from us, and it's like not to say that it's like bad stuff, it's really high quality videos, it's like really well made stuff, but it just doesn't feel like super like creative in a sense that's like super truthful and raw and like honest, or it just doesn't feel as inspiring to some people, like as challenging. Like I don't want to like go out to some filmmaker and be like, how did you do that? Like, even though there's some stuff that's like, and I'm not talking about like super high-end stuff, mostly just like stuff we see coming out like on socials and just like in the community and just on YouTube, like after doing some research, it's just like all kind of feels a little bit repetitive. And that's when I started looking around and just feeling like we really need to be like honest with each other and like give each other like feedback that
100%.
like, oh, like how was your video? Like I don't want to see DMs being like, good job, like killing it. Like even if you feel that way, I appreciate it like from the bottom of my heart. But if you don't, like honestly, be like, yo, Angelica, like that cut sucks. Like be like, I wish like I saw this done a million times. Like I saw like the rapper just like saying to camera with like 3 locations like a bunch of times, like can we do something else with the time we have, like and oh my god, like I'm getting like warm out here, but wait, let me open the window.
No, I agree. I think, like, to be honest, if I'm gonna like speak on it really quickly, I feel like I totally enjoy the hype, especially through Instagram, that comes with like you drop a new video, everyone's like, good job, this is sick. But definitely there's like, I think that being the people making this stuff a living, it's like those are always appreciated because support is a great thing to have. But those comments that are like, this was great, but like, why didn't you do this? Or I like how you did this. Like when it really gets down and breaks down the nitty gritty, like questions are always really good, and to find out why someone didn't like something or why someone did like something. So kind of how can you like speak upon the same question or like bounce off what Angelica said?
Okay, so first off, I want to say, because this is going to be my underlying thesis, okay? I don't want to I have so many thoughts. I feel like I just have to like stick to something, okay? So the main thing for me, right, what does creativity looks like? Okay, so what does that mean? So for me, creativity is being the most observant and utilizing what you've observed and like putting that to a new audience, okay? That's what being creative means to me, okay? Because I can be here right now, and like a couple of moments ago, Angelica, you just sent us a video, and it was from Russia, and it was amazing, right? It was something new to me, it was refreshing, but to them, it's probably their daily life, like their everyday life. They're probably sick of that video, those kind of videos, you know what I mean? So for me, because I was a new audience, I was intrigued by it, and I was ignited by it. But like an old audience who've seen it all, like it's redundant. It's all these things. So for me, I think that what we have to just within that topic, it's that, you know, we have to come out of our comfort zones and then really experience something different, you know. And there's a whole nother subcategory on like what that means to me. But I feel like, yeah, we're too comfortable in the creative environment that we're in right now, especially in Toronto. I think we're just figuring it out. I think it's important for us to critique each other in not a disrespectful way, but in a way where we're pushing each other to better ourselves in whatever way possible. I feel like we have to speak like louder. I feel like we have to speak more abrupt and like spontaneously and like not filter it, because we don't want to say the wrong thing because, you know, they might get mad or upset or hurt their feelings, or we might lose that connect, whatever. But you're right. Like, we have to speak more bluntly and unapologetically about our opinions within the creative community. You can do that without being disrespectful. There's like a whole like different game when it's like you're being disrespectful. But if you're passionate about this stuff, you want to thrive for your jump shot to be the best jump shot in the city. You know, we talked about that. There's creating and then there's being creative. You know, everyone that's creative is creating, like that can be thing. But for me, being creative has a little competitive like taste to it. It's almost as if I know what's been done already. You almost have to like line everything up and say, okay, this is what's been done in the music video. Okay, this is what we're not gonna do for this music video. I almost, you know what I mean? Just so you don't come out with the end product and be like, wow, this looks like what we saw, you know what I mean? So I feel like, you know, knowing the players that play the game and studying that will help you kind of like in the criticism mode. So, and I always say this, like, talk shit about your own product. Talk shit about your own product.
Yeah,
like,
write your own hate mail.
Exactly. Like, yo, like, you know, if you talk shit about your own product, no one else can, because you've already said those things and they won't hurt you. You know, thick skin. This is all about thick skin. You're asking for, you know, your people's opinions and, you know, people that you trust, obviously. But yeah, people gotta just get over it and be like, yo, if someone don't fuck with it, like, I can just, you know, I can take that, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just gonna cut this one off for a quick sec, because I want to ask you guys, because I can think of a couple things right now. So there's a couple things that have come out of Toronto that I really fuck with. Like, it's shit I've never seen before, and it's like, and I was telling you guys this earlier, I was like, I love when something makes me say, I wish I worked on that, or like, I wish I just wish I was there when this was happening, you know? And like, even just like the grocery bag Xylk, like, you know, like, I wish I thought of that. Like, it's just such a good idea. It's so,
what are you talking about?
like, I'm not even gonna get too much into it, because I feel like I don't have really words to justify how that kind of excitement to have wanted to be a part of something great that came out of your city. So what are some things, or one thing from Toronto, or from an artist from Toronto, that you guys really liked and were risk takers, and like, why do you think they just succeeded at what they did, whether it was one project or a series of projects? Like, if you guys can answer that question.
So do you want to start? Do you want me to start?
Oh, I've talked
Let's
about
start with Xylk.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Anybody?
Well, okay, so for example, when I was like starting to get interested in like exploring like my options of like where I can kind of land as a creative, like obviously like that was like 2016, I think, and like Kid Studio was like killing it. Like their stuff was like so different. Hi, Glenn.
Shout out Kid Studio.
And for a moment, or like even for like the next few years, like it became like the staple of like, this is sick and we all want to do it. Like it was like, I remember like even first year of Ryerson, people would like still like send each other stills and be like, how do we light it this way? And that was sick. But like I mean, obviously now there's a lot of really cool creative. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not trying to be like, I don't see like anyone doing a good job. Like, I see people trying things. I just want us to have like more of a niche. I also remember like when I was like still entering like this world, I was, you know, sometimes being like introduced to people and they were like, so what do you do? I'm like, because I like love music videos and I hate, oh my God, what is this background? Where did it come from?
Yeah, he's got kids studio, so I had to pull it out. Product placement.
Product placement, okay. So yeah, so I remember like being introduced to people and I love music videos because I love the art form. Like I hate how like in American culture it's becoming more of like just a tool for like promotion and distribution sometimes, and it's just really hard to like break that wall because it's like, yeah, like um, I see there's a lot of value to the artist, and that's why I love having like really honest conversations with artists where I'm just like, just be honest. Like the label says they love it, like do you like it? And they're like, and I'm like, so why? And like I'm trying to get to that point because it's like, not to be disrespectful, like there's a lot of people that work at labels that are just amazing also people and they're all so honest. So I'm not trying to be like everyone sucks because there's a lot of really cool people. Let's just be real. But yes, so when I was entering, I was saying like, yeah, I'm a music video director. And people would be like, don't say that. Like that's just not a good thing to say. I'm like, why? Music videos, just, they're not respected. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like,
Yeah, when you told me that, I was so upset that like someone said that to you. But anyway, sorry, go on.
and that was like a common thing. That wasn't just one random person in the street who said that. Like it was literally like people that I respected, and and they worked in music videos, and they all said like that's just not like commercially viable. I'm like, okay, so is that the reason why like we shouldn't be appreciating art form and like putting the energy into the art form, or also like are we saying like are we disrespecting the art form without trying to change it? Because it feels like everyone looks down on music videos here, but like in Russia, like when I flew, like when I was in Moscow, like the summer, it's like the sickest thing. It's like, oh, good job. It's like people come at music video directors at clubs and are just like, how'd you do that? Like, how'd you come up with this? You're a music video director. That's so dope. Like, I want to do that. I think that's really inspiring.
Just to add on before you kind of jump in, Xylk, like I don't think that like it's a that's only one opinion. Like I think that there are multiple opinions on how people feel about music videos and the career people have made out of them. I know that I struggled talking to my parents about it when I was like, no, like this is gonna work. But I just think there's definitely a majority, I think, of the world that don't understand how that can be something to take seriously. But so I'm just going to repeat the question again. What is something you have seen come out of Toronto that you wish that you thought of, and that was whoever made it was like a risk taker, for lack of a better explanation?
Yo, honestly, man.
And you could talk about yourself, like how do you think you took a risk? Like,
okay, yeah. So I'm just gonna speak about myself because I'm full of it. No, because I just feel like I have a lot of opinions about my own case study. You know what I mean? I'm my biggest case study. So just coming off of what you said to Angelica, like about the corporate, like, you know, just trying to balance between your creative thing and then trying to please like a client or whatever. Like for me, like just to go off of that real quick, just don't take a job. Like for me, I wouldn't never take a job that doesn't get my nipples hard. You know what I mean? Like I definitely.
My parents are watching, so.
Oh my gosh, my favorite people. My favorite people. You know, so for me, it's like I'm not gonna do something that I feel like partner up with someone that I don't feel like, you know, okay, when I was 11, my dad used to put me in basketball games with like his friends, and they're like 30, like 27-year-old, you know, man, you know.
Yeah.
So, men. So for me, it's like, you know, when I got to a point where, you know, I was playing in high school, like these kids were like a little easy because I've been playing with men my whole life. You know what I mean? So for me, it's like I'm not gonna get into any situation where I don't think that we can feed off of each other or I can feed off of them. And that's not to be like, you know, and take advantage or whatever. But that's just a little point that I wanted to add based off of what you were saying. Now to get to the question, I just wanted to say that, you know, when I came up with the grocery bags idea, again, going back to my thesis, like all I did was observe. All I did was observe my environment, right? And brought it to a new audience, like the people. So basically, you know, everyone knows I take a subway. I don't drive. So, you know, every day I was on the subway, and I noticed that everyone was, by looking at people, by stalking people, I noticed that people were carrying grocery bags. It's like their primary bag, and then their secondary bag was like either a Lululemon, Food Basics, and they had their shoes in there, their whatever, their extra clothes, whatever. But I noticed that it was always about like a brand product. There's like a throwaway design on it, so it was never swag. And I just realized, okay, let me try something. And I put the grinding like things on there, and you know, I just tried it out. So I thought that was a risk for me. That, you know, going back to the question, like for me, I couldn't go to someone and say, yo, how did those grocery bags do for you? You know what I mean? Like I had to take the last bit of money that I had left to be like, yo, I'm gonna take a risk on this, and if it guans, it guans. If it doesn't, then it's out of my, you know, it's out of my, like I did it. You know what I mean? There's a peace of mind for me. So for me, I think that the grocery bags was like a stepping stool for me to be like, okay, there's something here. And another discipline that I'm trying to do is like sticking to that idea. A lot of the things that we do as creatives, we don't milk it enough. You know, if we're the first ones to find a gold mine and no one's touched it, you're gonna milk that shit. You know what I mean? So for me, don't be afraid to like, you know, find and carve your own lane and then stick to it, right? Mm-hmm. It's like I can be like, yo, I done grocery bags already, move on. But no, there's a bunch of other things that I'm gonna release, other dimensions, other sides. And also too, if I release the grocery bags and 100 people saw it, right? And it's just within my circle of friends, and they like 2 weeks later, they'll be like, yo, why is he still like posting about the grocery bags?
Oh my God.
They'll be sick of it, right? They'll be sick of it. But guess what? There's like millions of people, our age demographics in Toronto alone. So I'm going to take my product, take your product, or whatever it is that you've done, and sing it to a new audience. Again, that's about being creative. And then to them, be like, yo, this guy is creative. You just have to find the one thing that you've observed and then take it to new audiences. Again, going back to that theory, you know what I mean? So for me, that's, I think, based on my own case study with the grocery bags, that's how I can apply it, you know? So.
Okay.
Makes sense?
Thank you. No, 100%. So you said a couple things in there that made me want to jump in and ask another question, but obviously I'm gonna let you finish. But one of the things you kind of said, and Angelica, I want you to speak on this question as well. I'll get you to answer first. You know, I talked to you guys about this Instagram live that I watched the other day between Liam Higgins and this director / DP, and I'm so sorry that I forget his name. But he said, people who are in film, and this can apply to people in film, in any kind of creative environment, people who are in film need to have a life outside of film because they can't just make films about films. And I never thought about this. And that's not to say that a film inspired by another film or any kind of work of art inspired by another film or any other work of art is bad. But he's basically saying to keep the creativity going and growing, you need to be inspired by other things outside of the sphere that you're constantly working in. So how can you guys kind of like talk about that topic? Angelica, go first.
Okay. I think that's very real, and it's a big problem for a lot of young creatives. And I made that mistake a lot of times myself, like, because I was so focused. It was like so tunnel vision to the point where nothing else existed, but in a bad way, where it's like unhealthy. And you do need to, you know, experience life, no, like it depends on what it means to you though, because don't be like generic and think like, oh, I need to go on walks and go to clubs and like do drugs. Like don't, if it doesn't make you happy, don't do it. Like don't recommend it to other people, don't endorse it. But like for me, I think I get very inspired by like language. I'm bilingual and I'm still like tackling it. And when I was like learning English, like for me, it was a lot of visual, like not metaphors per se, but like just like visual associations I had to like how to learn words and like how to like form sentences. And then I know like in Canada, there's a lot of people that have like the same experience of growing up like bilingual or even knowing more languages, but like I found it super inspiring. Like when I start thinking about like how other people perceive language, how we communicate, like even listening to other people's conversations or like analyzing my own conversation, not from a point of like, you know, that me when it's like you're 3 a.m. and you're in the shower and you're like, I should have said something else. And now like the conversation is gone. More so like, why did I think this way? Like there's different ways to say the same thing. And it's like, to me, it helps me translate it into like my art form, if that makes sense. I know it's broad. I think the second one is just like, I just genuinely like know that like I enjoy learning about like psychology, and like to me that's more inspiring than like watching other films. And as someone who's like a film student, I have my theory, like I have my stuff that like I have to know, and I just find psychology more inspiring, and like I just find some other things more inspiring. So maybe like when I grow older as like a filmmaker, I'm sure like I'll have more time to like, or like not more time, but like I'll understand films better. But like right now I'm just inspired by other things a little bit. And it just is frustrating sometimes when other people are like, so what are your favorite movies? What are your favorite directors of like 1950s? Or like, who's your favorite French New Wave director? And people like test you and you're like, I don't know. Like, I watch like things that my friends recommend to me and I recommend it to them. Like, I don't think that defines you as a filmmaker. Xylk, help me out here.
Okay. What was the question again?
The question, sorry, the question was, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, okay. So what is it? What?
Oh, like you have
okay, long story short. But,
yeah.
Sorry, long story short, someone in his Instagram live said, oh, you can't make films about films, to be super brief. And he said, you need to have a life outside of film to be inspired, to be like truly inspired or something along those lines. So I just wanted to know like what you thought about that. Cause that was, when I heard that, I was like,
right. Okay.
True. Like you know what I mean? So go on.
Yeah. For me, I agree with him and I disagree with him. So it's like, you know, there are people who really dedicate their lives to like sticking to one thing, and that to me is admirable, and it shows great amount of passion, and you know, we can admire that, right? But for me, there's in life balance, right? So you know, Jackson Pollock, you guys know who Jackson Pollock is, right? He's the guy's fucking bullshit paintings, right? It's like splashing on all these canvases, right?
Oh,
Basically,
okay.
there's an interview with him on like I think it was I think Time, maybe probably it's like in the 70s. But basically, when they went to his house, they saw that he was painting his paintings, huge canvases, and it was all over the barn. It was like a barn all over the barn, and there's a couple on the floor as well, and there's I think some in the ceilings too. So basically, when they asked him about his like creative process, he told them that, yo, I'm working on 17 paintings all at the same time right now, right? All at the same time right now. And for me, I kind of saw that as, okay, so it's cool to be working on one thing, right? Leave it, get inspiration somewhere else, because you get the creative block from, I think, forcing it, right? When you force it, you kind of put this standard towards the right now of what you need to make right now for that piece. But when you step away from it, it's like, okay, the next day you're like, okay, I have fresh eyes. Like I can, you know, I live my life. You know, the greatest albums out there take years to create, you know, Blonde.
Yeah.
Good Kid, Mad City. Like these albums are amazingly like well thought of. They lived a life first, or they've gained perspective first. They've observed different surroundings and then brought it to us, the new audience. So, for me, I wholeheartedly agree, like, that you have to experience other things and bring it to a new audience, because that makes it intriguing. Now, how you do that, I think it's key too, right? And this is what I'm going to say. Like, I don't follow my own sister on Instagram. I don't.
Mhm.
Because Instagram is like the one thing for me that A, that's feeding me, and B, that I spend the most time in, right? And that's the way I consume whatever art or whatever visuals, right? So if I'm gonna be on there, I'm not following a bad bitch on Instagram. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna follow someone that's really pretty. They're nice to look at, but I'm on that. I'm scrolling. I want to be inspired. So, set yourself up for success. Like, these are tools that you have daily that's feeding you constantly, like, that probably you're not even thinking about. That, don't complain if you're not inspired when there's, you're following like 20 bad thing accounts. You know what I mean? Of course you're not going to be inspired. I'm always inspired. Why? Because, like, I go to, like, neighborhoods. Here's the thing, and my boy Fief is on this, and he taught me this, but don't never feel comfortable, man. Don't be comfortable. Don't get comfortable. The moment you feel that you're comfortable, like, that shit is like, it just takes away from you. You know what I mean? You're bored. That means you're bored. You're like, you feel like you've crossed the finish line. No, dog. Like, this is a conversation, right, that we're trying to ignite, kind of like the creative minds, right, within the city. To me, right now, this conference call with everyone else that's in this call, this is when the Justice League, or when the Avengers come to assemble, and then they're like, how are we gonna beat Ultron right now? You know what I mean? This is it. If you're in this call right now, like, I'm putting like a creative responsibility to, like, the whole everyone here right now to make dope shit, to push yourself. You know what I mean? Because this will all be pointless if we're just talking. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like this is like a town hall fucking, cry. Like,
I'm gonna pop in really quick, because you're saying how, like, everybody, we're all in this Toronto creative scene together, and we all see the great things coming out of it. And I love when Angelica sends me this person, and she's like, on Instagram, she's like, oh, we're gonna work with them. And we do. And, like, I would want the same thing to happen to me. I would want someone to send my profile to somebody, and someone would want to work with me, and vice versa to all of us. So it's like, I literally lose my train of thought all the time, and I'm so sorry. But just, like, the idea of being excited for one another, and being so excited to the point where it's like, we're gonna, like, make it their creativity work with whatever project we're doing. Like, Angelica will bring in these random people all the time, and then I'm literally always just, like, blown away. And these are low budget projects, no budget projects, and just, like, it's just pure passion. But sorry, to speak upon what you were just saying, it's like, not like everybody here, like, I'm always excited to see what the people around me are doing, because I would love to somehow hone their creativity and make it flourish, just the same as I would want someone to do that for me. But okay, so I'm going to ask a question directed more to Angelica, but Xylk, I think you'll have some opinions on it as well. Obviously, so Angelica, you grew up in Russia, and I say to you all the time how, like, I love content that comes out of Europe. And I don't know how to describe it. There's just something about it that's just, like, it's just sick. And I wish more of that came out from where I'm from. And not to say that it needs to be exactly the same, but I wish I got the same feeling I get with that kind of content. So what do you think it is about, like, what is that feeling that I have, or that a lot of people I think have, that turns them on about certain content and turns them off about different content? And how can we kind of change that pattern, I guess, or that kind of thing?
So when I was doing my research, and I can't speak for, like, every country, but, like, when I was just, like, talking to filmmakers from Moscow, which is actually hilarious, because and it got to a point where at first, like a year ago, like maybe a few months ago, I would be the person like sending people those videos and just be like, have you seen this? Like, this is crazy. But now it's like I get submissions and like bids and stuff, and it's like the videos that people attach as inspirations are those videos, and they're like, Angelica, have you seen this? I'm like, I know that film, or like they're from my city, like they're from Russia, like I know. So thank you for finally like opening your eyes to that culture. But I think like after doing my research, I realized like the industry is just like slightly different there. They don't really have like as much structure as we have, and they have more independent artists that like build like companies around themselves. So like they tour themselves, like they do merch themselves, they do stuff themselves, and so they fund their own music videos. So like stuff that kind of looks like very niche and like grungy that comes out from like those countries, a lot of the times they do have budgets, but the thing is like they're not paid by the same people. Like it's less sponsorships and it's like less label. I think it's more the artist, and it's like it's a competition between the artists to be like, my video hits harder than your video, and that's what they're just doing. Again, like I can't speak for like every country, but I think for them, they don't see it as much of like, I need a Spotify vertical video like right now, and it just needs to come out. Like I need it yesterday, we need to shoot it yesterday, like it just needs to come out, that's all. And like for them, it's more about, let's push this a little bit. How can I be weirder in this video? Can I make some like paint glow and bring blue light and shoot from inside of a jar, and I don't know, put a camera up on like an escalator. I don't know, it's just crazy things, and it's like cool.
I'll see if it's in the budget. Sorry, so are you talking about this is something that happens in the content that we are more excited about?
I think so. Like I think that's when, because we're talking about specifically music videos, and I think like obviously as a director, like you do take the risks, but I personally like, and back to what Xylk was saying, like I want to work with artists, and I'm so lucky to work with artists that are like very specific about their stuff and send me like volumes of notes. Like I love that, and we can fight about that and have a conversation and cry, and then have a new and very refreshing edit. Like that's cool. And I think for them, like they just see music videos differently. They're not seeing
That's interesting.
a promotional tool.
Okay, that's interesting. So you're saying like that the perspective that these people with more power have really affects, I guess, the quality of output of that content?
Well, yes and no, because it also depends on like who those people are, but I feel like it's just the mindset. Like it's the mindset of like treating those pieces less as like an art form itself and more as like, oh, what's our release strategy? Oh, and then we have the music video.
Thank you. So do you have anything you want to say about that, or do you think Angelica kind of answered it?
Yeah, no, hit it right on the nose. I just want to add that, when it comes to big corporations and all these things, the space between the like us and them is so great that we don't understand them, they don't understand us, right? So for me, I don't even want to get into like all of that. I just want to speak within like our community. So because that kind of like big corporation stuff, you guys have a lot more experience with that and dealing with those people, but I am trying to be a corporation, you know what I mean? Like I'm trying to be those guys. So for me, I feel a little differently about it, but I just want to address something. There's a bunch of good questions that are on this.
I know. I was literally sorry. I was just about to get into that, but like, if you can see them, dive into them.
There's just one that sticks out to me. I think is important for me to say, but I'm gonna just touch on it like very briefly. So first, this is not that one, but okay. So this is from Nick, and it says thoughts on the act of creation versus the act of appropriation. Okay, so I think that's very important, and I will only speak about this once, because to me, that's not where my focus in my head is at, right? But this is where I'm gonna speak on it. But thank you, first of all, thank you for asking that question. I think it's very important. Second, I think that, you know, just a little bit of background. Like I was born in the Philippines, born and raised in Manila. I moved here when I was 7 with my whole family. And then this is where I grew up, basically. And I grew up in Sherburne and Wellesley, Jamestown, Bleecker, just by fucking downtown, like where every Filipino gets dropped off after the airport, pretty much. That's like our central hub of neighborhood. Okay, so I grew up with, you know, just above Regent Park. I grew up with a lot of Ethiopians, Somalians, you know, Jamaicans, and a lot of Tamil Chinese immigrants. So that's kind of like the environment that I grew up in. Now, you know, it's all about neighborhoods, I think. So for me, a lot of the things that I make come from, you know, the question just right above it. That'll answer that. It'll come from, I'm not gonna do anything that doesn't make me excited. So things that excite me is nostalgia. Things that I grew up, you know, I think growing up as an immigrant, for me, I felt a little out of place. And Angelica, you can probably, you know, relate to this, but I felt like I didn't belong here. The first time I went to the Philippines, I didn't belong there. So it's like,
yeah,
right? So it's like, where am I from? Toronto, or am I Filipino? Because when I'm here, they make fun of me for the way I spoke, like, you know, and then so that kind of like traumatized me in a sense where I was kind of subduing or hiding like who I was, right? So now as I grow older, now I'm 27, I'm embracing myself more. So that's why these images, right, are coming in the forefront of my creativity, because I am accepting myself more, right? So this is me hugging myself. The things that I felt like influenced me, raised me, right? Who didn't watch basketball, who didn't grow up with, you know, Jordans. Like, so for me, this is the environment that I'm familiar with. This is my culture. This is what I was raised on, right? You know, they didn't yell at Tarzan for swinging on trees, because they understand that that's his upbringing, right? So I feel like we're quick to call something, or even me, for me, it's like, yo, that's appropriation. But, you know, I think if we knew the background of a lot of and where it comes from, where it stems from the creators, we can understand that, yo, that's his upbringing. You know, a lot of people, like, this is the most diverse city in the world. How dare we box it into be like, if you're this skin color, you must be into this, or if you're thing, you must be into this. Like, how dare we do that in such a complex like city, right? A lot of people grow up in different upbringings and a lot of different situations. So for me, this happens to be my situation, right? And I'm just using what I know within my creation. Now, I do understand that, you know, something that, you know, if you do something, you just got to do it with taste. And I feel like, you know, a lot of appropriation is done without taste. Why? Because I feel like it's done by a white male. And that's why we're so angry at someone and being like, yo, that's appropriation, because you're taking our culture, right? But because of the standard in the box that they were put in, and then now they're brave enough to like try something different. And all of a sudden we're just like, yo, that's appropriation. How about we learn? Okay, I understand that. But did they grow up like with this? Or do they really feel like they connect with whatever they created? Or are they really just in it for money, right?
Okay, so I'm gonna stop you right there.
I think it's a differentiation. We just had to like really know, like, okay, what the fuck is this person? That kind of person, you know what I mean? So
I want to thank you. That was, sorry, I can always count on Xylk for like a good punch in the face of like inspiration. But
don't
okay,
say
anyway.
that. I don't want to get TMZ. Don't count on Xylk for a punch in the face. People are gonna type that. People are gonna type that. This is a bad headline.
There's a lot of comments that I'm seeing that are really great, but something that me and Angelica talk about a lot, and something that you kind of just brought up, and my brother, he lives in Amsterdam. He's a creative director down there, and he's one of the reasons I kind of got into the creative industries. He wants us to answer this question. So there's a big difference between being creative and being paid to be creative. At this stage in your careers, where do you draw the line between your ideas and serving others? Do you think that will change? So me and Angelica have come across this situation a couple times together where the client will change their mind about something, and then we are left with the challenge of, okay, well, how do we still make a product that we're proud of, but something that the client's happy with? Because ultimately they hired you to figure it out, and they hired you to make a good idea, so how do you kind of deal with those challenges, if you guys can answer that question?
So how do you deal with the challenge of, sorry,
How do you deal with the
like the companies, like, you're right, they hired you, so they should be able to trust you with whatever you present, right? It's now up to you to, like, it's up to your own capabilities on how well you execute or solve the problems that they like hand to you. So it's up to you to deliver that and convince them that, yo, this is the solution, right? A lot of the companies feel like, yo, we're gonna make this person execute properly, and then they're gonna ask question, you give them the answer, and you're like, no, that's not the answer. Then what the fuck am I here for then? You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it gets crazier when it's like, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
It gets crazier when it's like, yeah, like we love everything about this, but can we just like throw this in there, and it's like completely out of the world, and you're like, how did this just come about? Like, where did you get this idea? I think, like, well, it comes down to, like, and that's something I'm constantly working on myself, because, I'm fairly new, and it's like, I'm still, like, establishing my voice and the boundaries, and, like, how far I can push the creative, and where is just the line to say, no, this is not happening. This is not what we pitched on. This is not what you signed on. This is not what we're doing. So I think, like, honesty helps. Like, it's very efficient to be like, because sometimes the notes will just be so superfluous. What's the word? Superfluous?
Superficial,
and just like flowery language. I don't know, man. It's like, yeah, but can we just like shift this into this? And you're like, do you just really mean this? And they're like, yeah. So I think, like, being very honest and educating people about the art, and saying, like, I feel like people gain more respect once you, like, educate them on the process, and saying, like, I understand that you would like to take this in a different direction, but, well, first of all, here's A and B and C why creatively this works better, and works better for your brand, and works better for your artist. And currently, like, in the situation of, like, I don't know, whatever it is, like, in the current trends, or if that's what they're pitching on, but if it's something that's, like, more artistic, you just have to really, mindfully and cautiously, in a sense, like, bring the information to them, but still be very honest about it. I think that really helps.
There's definitely,
even with production, like what you do, like, sometimes when it's like very unreasonable things are being said, and you're like, no, like, I would love to do that for you. I would love to try these things, but you don't just go and say no. Like, you have to be very nurturing about it, and be like, well, we tried this, and then we have this, and then there's this issue we're running into, and to be honest, I would love to do that, but this is not possible because A and B and C. Like, I think that helps. Like, I think that helps to all of us, like, be educated and be on the same page. It just takes more time.
Thank you, guys.
It takes more time to.
No, 100%.
No, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm so sorry. I keep on interrupting you. There are so many questions and things that I really want you guys to be able to answer. So I'm going to dive into them. But I think the point that you guys, to sum up what you both are kind of saying, is like, there's a balance between doing your job, but also keeping your creative integrity, and which is ultimately why you're collaborating with them, because they trusted your vision. Obviously there are circumstances, but anyways. So I see a couple questions in the comments right now, and one question that I'm really passionate about, it's when people say, or when people use the excuse of not having the money or the budget. And I'm not trying to say that this is thank you. I'm not trying to say that you're wrong for saying this, because I've said that. I said, well, I didn't have the money to do it. But I think I'm going to kind of gas myself a bit. I think I thrive in my field of choice because the number doesn't limit my ability. It's what am I able to do with what I'm given, so it's like, we run across that challenge a lot. We do we started doing no budget music videos and slowly grew that up, and we still will do no budget videos because we're passionate about it. So from videos to products, some people are asking like, how do you do work without the money? So in my opinion, all I can say to it quickly is like, if you're driven enough and if you are passionate enough about it, you'll find a way. Like there's no other answer that I can think of. Like you'll call your mom's ex-boyfriend's cousin who has a camera and you'll make that video in your basement. And it's like that's just the way it has to happen. And people are going to see that grind, whether it's good or not, but that grind is what's going to stand out. You know what I mean? So, and I see people doing that and I always pay attention to that. But anyways, hop on that as well, please.
Okay, I just want to say that because there's a couple of questions about like I think this is Pranika saying this. Okay, yeah. So that kind of goes with what you're saying. There's, you know, financial barriers and interest in part and hinder the quality of the creative process, you know, and for me, it's like, again, going back to my thesis, you know what I mean? It's going back to observing and bringing it to a new audience, right? For me, you know, before the grocery bags, like I sold t-shirts, white t-shirts, and I vacuum sealed them, right? That was my packaging. I vacuum sealed the t-shirts and, you know, and it gave me a lot of confidence because people bought them. So the way I came up with like the vacuum seal idea was, I'm sure that a lot of obviously like different people have done it before, but for me, genuinely, I was folding t-shirts on my desk and my girl was vacuum sealing some fruits. And I was like, what the fuck is that noise? I've never seen a vacuum seal before. So I was like, okay, well, there's my packaging. So I was just like observing and then boom, bringing it to a new audience, right? So for me, we have to change the way we ask the question, right? It's like, we know that there's financial restriction barriers. Oh, I can't get this, blah, blah, blah. But okay, ask a proper question. Be like, what, like which paycheck am I gonna save to like make sure that I have the tools to create the things that I want to create? It's like a lot of discipline, you know what I mean? Like people are sleeping too much, I think. And I mean that metaphorically and literally. Like I feel like people are sleeping too long. 8 hours is too long of a sleep. Like
it's
if you
20 years out of like 60 years of your life or something.
Yeah. So for me, it's like, okay, well, I think you're sleeping too much. If you have to work to like fuel what you want to do, then you have to do it. It's like, you know, you have to change the way you think, I feel. And it goes back to comfortability. You have to feel uncomfortable to be like, yo, I feel uncomfortable. I must be pushing myself. You know what I mean? When you work out, your muscles are sore because you pushed it to the limit. The same thing with your mind and your work ethics. You know, the way you feel comfortable with if you feel comfortable in your heart and in your brain, that's like you being sore from like your muscles, you know, because you're pushing yourself, I think. So I think I don't really think about what the problems are too much. I know that when I started, like, man, like I didn't have anything. I had to make 5 t-shirts, and then like people wanted to, you know, you have to get like heat transfers. You have to get heat transfers to be like, okay, this is expensive. This is like $20 for 5 sheets. And that's not including all your mistakes and your trial and error stuff. Like this costs a lot of money. So it's like, you know, you just really have to like budget it, figure out your financial situation, what you can do, what you can't do, and then play off your strengths, man. Like for me, it's like a discipline thing, you know?
I think that I'm going to kind of bring up 2 things here. So to bounce off what you just said, I think it's like this industry is filled with whoever is not on mute right now, can you just mute yourself? Or I'm just going to mute you myself. Hang on, let me mute this person. Okay. So I think that we all have an ego, and the family I come from, our egos are really, we got some big egos. And I know that you definitely have to get beat down a little bit, and you need to be put through the grinder, and someone needs to tell you, I don't like your idea. And that just makes you even stronger. And I think that's something we all know. But I think what goes along with that when it comes to money, it's like, you know, like Angelica knows this, and you know this, So I dropped out of school, I stopped working, and I was like, I'm just going to put everything into producing. And very grateful that that worked out. But I was extremely open-minded to the idea that if this doesn't work out, I'm going to get my job back at Jack Astor's and serve, because I knew if I wanted to keep up that stream of producing, which is what I wanted to do, I needed to pay my rent. You know what I mean? So it's like, you have to remember what's realistic and set your goals, but also remember the logistics of life. You know what I mean? So a couple people are not from here in the comments, and they're saying that, how do you kind of get, to be short, how do you get yourself involved in this community that us three are kind of a part of, and that a lot of people are part of, this community that we talk about? And this is a question, you guys know, I was hesitant on asking because I didn't know how to word it, and I didn't know kind of what place it had, but now I'm kind of realizing it. So some people have asked me outside of this, you know, like, do you think that the scene hypes up projects that, for lack of a better word, don't deserve to be hyped? Or like, do you think a person who is in the scene can be more successful than a person who isn't? So can you guys speak upon this quote unquote scene, why that's a thing, what it means? And thank you. And, you know, just like challenging, because when people say like, well, I'm not a part of that community, so I can't be as successful as these people. So how can you like answer someone who says something like that?
Okay, for me, I'll say this, man. Like, when I was starting off, I'm still starting off. I haven't even started.
Awesome.
But, I'll say this. You know, there was two people. I had. You have to have kind of like, I have these like little measures and litmus tests, right, to see if I'm achieving my goal, right? So when you're trying to lose weight, you step on a scale and it'll say 150, and you'll be like, okay, great, I lost 10 pounds. So for me, socially, right, for me to know if my work or my products were getting across to people, my litmus test was to get Glenn of Kid Studio's attention and Sean Brown's attention. Those are my two, like, that was just like my initial goals, right? But not in a way where it's like, I'm gonna message them and be like, yo, can you check this out? Yo, can you tell me what you think of this? No, because for me, like, anyone can do that. Like, that's not a gauge of your work reaching to people. That's you reaching out to people, to someone. And in a non-organic way.
For people who don't know, which I'm sure you do, who don't know Kid Studio or Sean Brown, these are two people from Toronto who have made a huge impact on. Pardon?
Entities. Yeah. Kid Studio is like compromising.
Sorry. These are Kid Studio and Sean Brown. These are people, groups of people who have made a huge impact on the creative scene in Toronto and have brought a lot of attention to our city. So sorry, go on. I just wanted to like let people know who they were.
Yeah. So people that we look up to, basically, right? So for me, it was like, okay, I don't ever want to let them, like, not once did I ever tell someone, yo, post my shit, please. Like, or do you mind giving me a shout to something, please? Like, you know, do not be afraid to ask the questions, but don't be beg on like asking the question, you know what I mean? So for me, you know, the moment that I knew that my work was catching their attention without reaching out to them, that's when I knew, like, I've carved my own lane, right? A, B, and that, you know, I have a good core fundamentals of what I'm doing, and you don't have to like ask for a cheat code, you know what I mean? Like, if you asked to be on the NBA and didn't do the workouts that was necessary to be on the league, once you play your first game, you won't last as long as the people who have, right? So for me, it's like the mentality of like paying your dues, I guess, but like, it's not even paying your dues because you're doing it for your own self, right? So I got to make sure that my jump shot is proper when I get to the league. So for me, it's like, yo, I never seek for anyone's validation right off the bat. There's people that I like value their opinion, but at the end of the day, it's like, you know, if these people like are not willing to put their name with my name for me, right? Personally, for me, in a competitive level, I'm like, I haven't done enough. And that's just on me. I'm very like, I guess I like to crucify myself a lot if I don't get at a certain point, because I told myself, hey, that's your goal. If you don't get there, then it's on me. So it's like, if you're not getting the attention, or if you're not getting a thing, create one. If there's no demand for your product, create one. And how do you do that? Holy shit, that's another conversation. But it's all about observing and then fixing the problem. I think it's like,
being strategic, but like gambling a little bit. Split the difference.
100% gambling. And then
I think
like,
that
one thing you can't control is timing. Like, you can't control time.
I think that it's also just important to note that, like, we're not ignorant to the fact that the people you hang out with heavily impact how much attention you get or your product gets. That's inevitable, right? But it's definitely like, let's say Xylk made these bags and he was still in the Philippines and he wasn't in Toronto. He didn't have the friends or the communities that he had in Toronto, but he found a way to find those communities and to reach out to those people and to send them what he did. And then we got to see it. And then someone's going to, it's just like, you definitely have to reach out to the people that you want to be around, because ultimately you want to hang out with the people or be around the people that inspire you, right?
But here's the thing though. Here's the thing. There's assholes in the game, in the community that we're in too, right? So, and there's people who, will say that they like what you do or whatever, and then they won't associate their names with you. So I acknowledge that, right? You should be able to know that, okay, yes, you can reach out to people, but that doesn't equal like the dollar that you need to like make your shit, to continue your stuff. And that doesn't necessarily, you know what I mean? It's like there's a lot of fakeness, right? So for me, that's not enough. That's why I'm saying the litmus test is like the genuine growth that you get from reaching out by not reaching out. It's like you let good products, you let the good work speak for you type thing. So that's
one thing I learned really early when I started actually making money off of the career is don't ever depend on someone else for your success. And that's something that I kind of did in the beginning. So there was this guy who really started my career off, and he, I said to him, I want to do the role that you're doing, and like I want to learn under you. And I was lucky enough that he gave me that opportunity. And then the jobs he was getting me on, that was paying my rent. And then all of a sudden, just stopped hiring me, and I had no idea why, and I was devastated by it. And he did that for a reason. He did that because he was showing me, like, you can't depend on me for your success. You have to find it elsewhere. And I really appreciate that. Was like such a big lesson. I think that's something that everyone could take with them, no matter what they kind of do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think I kind of also want to like touch briefly on that, because my background, like I live here without my like majority of my family, like all of them were in Russia, so I moved as an international student. And when I moved, I had like a lot of difficulty connecting to people in my high school because of the language barriers. So I think that's when the observing came about, because I was like at the lunch table, like not knowing the language. It felt like I was in like a beehive. And then slowly I was learning the language, and I just didn't feel accepted really. Like everyone was extremely nice. I just didn't feel like I belonged. And that was it. Like you can be invited to parties, you can be invited to pre and after and whatever, but like you're just not fully clicking. And that's when I also started getting confused about like my language, like how to like express myself. And I found like video is the type of expression, the type of language that just kind of is easier for me than either of the languages. And so I, started working. I was on set the first time, and it really like changed my life. I felt so alive. Like I just wanted to come back, and I was craving it. And so I was like on set all the time for like years. And that was a really good time, because I completely was so just focused on the experience of being on set, that I was so oblivious to the scene. And that's why you and I like sometimes talk about it, and I like don't completely know what it is in a sense. But then what happened was like I was working and working and working and working, and then I got into house. And that just all of a sudden like was such a stepping stone for me in terms of just learning about the mindset more than anything else. And I think the coolest things that they ever shared, and it's like, you know, the people that are working behind some of the biggest stuff that's coming out, like The Weeknd, Nav, 88 Glam, like one of the first things they said was like, yeah, like we can get you through the door, but like it's up to you to be invited to the board table. And then another thing was like, and those were just like little outtakes of like really great conversations. Another one was like, don't look at followers, because like you can have 7 people following you, but like if you imagine those people sitting in your living room and like buying a product and like really supporting you and really agreeing or disagreeing and having like a conversation, those 7 people are a lot of people. And I feel like it's hard to believe in like the mentality we live in right now, because like nothing is viral at this point. Everything is viral. Everyone's blowing up. Like numbers are crazy. Like what used to be a lot of numbers is just nothing at this point. It's like, how can we top the numbers now? That kind of like mentality. But you know, the 7 people in your room, if those are the people you respect and you can have a productive conversation with your art and they support you, that's a lot of people. You're doing great already. Like keep pushing, you know?
Mm-hmm. I want to kind of ask this question that a couple people have brought up and I want to bring up. So, you know, I think it's inevitable that you're going to compare yourself to others, but I think a lot of people have more control over that than others do. So, you know, like, I think sometimes we can be a little too judgmental on other people's creative processes. So what's the difference you think between someone's opinion and constructive criticism? And I know this is kind of an overused question, but I just still want to touch on it a bit.
Right. First of all, you don't have to take anyone's opinions or anything like to heart or to you or whatever. Like you can use it. You can, you know, I never got this quote, like take it with a grain of salt, but it's probably.
You don't like that? I love that.
I don't know what that means. What do you mean salt? I don't know. I just don't know. But, you know, you just, man, like I said, man, like, I think it just goes with, I think someone asked this too. It's like, how do you, you know, where does mental health like kind of like lay in all of this, right? So for me, it's like people's opinion could either make you or break you, right? Because you put so much value into that. Now, for me, what I do is like I only ask certain people for their opinions. I you know, I only ask certain people, the ones that will actually impact me, right? The ones that will mess with my psyche and be like, yo, they don't like that. Okay, there must be something to that, right? What can I do? So, but also, you can, the courage comes from saying, fuck that, and I'll do that. You know, when I said, yo, I'm going to make a grocery bag, people were like, what the fuck are you doing? Grocery? And then they were like, how much are you going to charge it? Well, you know, $40. They're like, yo, I can get one for $2. And I'm like, okay, when I made it, though, when I made it, it's like, okay, well, can you get this grocery bag for $2 anywhere? It's like, you gotta be, it's, for me, it's not, okay, I understand not everyone is in this mental capacity, but like for me, it was very, like, I put myself in a situation where if this is what I want to do, create my own thing, my own lane, and where people buy from me directly, I'd have to take risks. I have to make, you know, I'm ready to roll the dice multiple times in my career or in my experience, right? So I think that, I don't know, man, I'm getting too passionate about this. I'm getting too riled up about it.
No, I appreciate that. And I agree with what you're saying. It's like, because you know, when somebody tells you their opinion on something and in your mind, you're like, I could literally care less about this person's opinion, right? You respect it, but it's just like, it's true. You only really need to mentally,
ask, right?
Yeah, you really only mentally, but sometimes people will give you their opinion and you don't even ask for it, which is fine. But
yeah, you know, like, it's great, but I see those as tests, as how strong is your skin, bro? Like how thick is your skin? Like if you can't, I'm telling you right now, okay? If you can't get over what someone else's like opinion, like if you're hurting too much about what others' opinions is, like it's, bro, can you handle like being in debt, like because you put so much in your bank account because of something you believe in? Like you won't be able, like, bro, like you think that the money that I'm getting from any of this is going like to buy new J's? No, it's like it's going back to what you. So it's like for me, yo, you gotta, man, mental health is 100% like is the first thing you gotta get through. You know what I mean? It's like the one thing that will hold you and keep you throughout this whole thing consistently. And I think branding is just like good branding is just being the most consistent. But
Like a cherry on top.
yeah, no,
So
100%. Yeah.
to talk about mental health, because I think, and when we say mental health, you know, we're not talking about like, I think sometimes when we say that it can be a very
Yeah,
big
no, 100%.
pot.
Yeah. My mental
but right
just
now,
like
no, of course.
Yeah. It's my own thing.
It's your mental, like at the end of the day, you've chosen, this is something I said to you guys yesterday. You've both chosen a career where your creativity, you're being extremely vulnerable with it. And you know, people need to like what you're, you know, coming up with. So one thing that I've told both of you about, and Glenn actually has this book right now because I want as many people to read this book as possible. So Mark Manson, the guy who wrote
Don't give a
how
fuck.
to not give a fuck, he wrote this book called Life, Love, Books, and it's really short. It's like 80 pages, and basically the first part of the book, it's like the 4 stages of life. And just to be brief, a couple of things that it points on this thing, and it says what did it say? There's this thing called Peter Pan syndrome, and it's like when you're running in place but you're really not going anywhere. So it's like you're experiencing everything but you're not growing. So you know, someone can make 10 music videos and learn, you know, and not advance their creativity, but someone can make one music video, this is just an example, and completely like change the game or change their mindset. And I'm gonna be honest, like I wanted to start this conversation going into something else, but I kind of had to go off track because I forgot what I was gonna say. But how can you kind of, I don't know, I really liked the concept of Peter Pan syndrome. So what do you guys think about
For
that?
me, it's yo, I'm gonna say it like this, like don't be afraid to like, also like a lot of people be like, oh, like I'm this, I'm this, I don't know, like there people are quick to label themselves, right? Not giving themselves. That's why I have a hard time being like, yo, like, okay, what do you do? I'm like, what I'm doing right now is more of a question, like, right? So
You know, like the number of times I was like, don't ask me.
yeah, for me, it's like, no, it's not because we're trying to be, and here's the thing too, to all the creatives out there, it's like, guys, like, when, like, don't be afraid to be one thing today and the other thing tomorrow. It's like, and I'm going to contradict myself later, because once you do decide I'm going to be this, you have to, like, we have to be disciplined enough to stick to it, right? Because as creatives, as artists, we think, as musicians, we were like, yo, I can do anything. Like the biggest thing we say to each other is like, yo, I can make anything I want right now. But for me, that's the thing that holds us back from actually creating, is because the fact that we have endless amount of things that we can do, and we might start one thing and then move on to another thing and never be disciplined enough to like master and hone that craft, you know? So for me, it's like a lot of people don't know this. Like I started in the music industry like back in high school, like years ago. Like that's where I started. I thought I was gonna be a musician and doing that, but I found that I enjoyed making other things. So when people be like, yo, I thought you were making music, and all of a sudden I'm doing this, it's like, for them, it's like, oh, well, whatever. Like, yo, none of that shit. Like people can grow, man. People can choose one thing, they're one thing today and the other thing tomorrow. Like that's completely fine.
I absolutely agree. I also feel like, just going back to the point of like consistency, like, you know, burnout is a real thing. Like, obviously, approach at your own risk. But like being consistent to what matters to you, and that's like, I, you know, struggle with that sometimes too. Like everyone does. It's hard to be doing the thing that brings you the most fear and excitement at the same time every day. It's hard. It's a real thing. but the consistency, like, it really builds trust within you, and that trust really helps you deal with a lot of mental health issues, I found.
Right.
So that's just how it makes sense in my brain.
You know, consistency in branding too is like very important to me. Like, pick 3 words, and then I always say this. I this is the one thing I have to say. It's like, pick 3 words on whatever it is, whether you're a musician, you're an artist. Pick 3 words, and then follow every post, every word that you say, every anything based on those 3 posts. Because if I chose my 3 words to be happy, joyful, and cheerful, and all of a sudden my post is something scary, my audience is gonna be like, yo, what the fuck was that? Like, that's not what I signed up for, right? It's a miscommunication between the trust in the brand or the person, and the consumer. So it's like, it turns them off, and it's not consistent. And I think good branding is just basically being the most consistent. You know,
And even like
also too, there's a question over here. Which artist, celebrity would you dunk on? Jerry Lorenzo. Jerry Lorenzo is my answer. Okay, Fear of God is so shit.
Sorry, Angelica, what were you gonna say?
About the consistent. Oh well, you know, it's not even only about the consistency of branding. It's also the consistency of just like working relationships. Because, you know, sometimes there's days when I'm just like, I want to hide under my blankets and there's no way I'm submitting this cut. But if I don't submit it or email or like say that something I need to deliver before the person approaches me back, like that's a big thing. Like you have to approach first. And unless I do that, like something is going to act different, you know, like I'm going to be off balance. Like even if, you know, some days I just like really don't want to deal with it, you have to, because it will help you. And just like, you know, having the trust with the peers. That's what I was going to say. It's not just with the
no, thank you.
peers too.
100%. It's this industry, and what I love about it is how important relationships are, and how important it is to be comfortable with who you are, and to be vulnerable, and to be very, very, I'm not even going to say very, very social, because I think that it's just about finding your community and finding the people that believe in you and that you believe in. So I'm going to ask one more question from me, from what we kind of talked about, and then we can kind of look to the comments specifically, because I know there's a lot of questions I didn't ask. And hang on one second. I'm sorry. I know there's a lot of questions I didn't ask, but I would love to like answer them specifically. So my last question, and this kind of closes it off, and just so everyone knows, like me, Angelica, and Xylk really wanted to go into this talk with a goal for ourselves, and kind of a goal for everyone else to kind of think about. So ultimately, we want the best for our city, and we want the best for ourselves and things coming out of Toronto. So what needs to happen? Like, what do we need to do? What kind of conversations do we need to have? And I know that's a loaded question, but if you can kind of be brief about it, what do you think?
Be blunt, be respectful, like, of your honest opinions. Don't be afraid. And also, too, the counterpart to that is like, be able to accept that. It's like, know when someone is like disrespecting you in a negative way, in any way, versus like, yo, that's their opinion. Great. Now, if I care about that opinion, how can I alter and implement that? I think that's the one, you got to grow a thick skin.
Totally.
Thick skin.
Oof. So much in my head.
And there, amongst other things, there's like multiple things. Yeah. Also, too, there's just one thing that, are we still doing this, or can I get to?
Yeah, I'm still asking that question.
Okay.
So I think like, sorry?
No, sorry. Answer the question.
Okay. Because I was like, we can move on. Well, I think first, definitely try to challenge each other in a very, again, respectful manner. It's important to be nice. It's nice to be important, but it's important to be nice. And, you know, come after me, like challenge me, like challenge Mikayla, like challenge Xylk, like challenge yourselves. Like I want to I want to, you know, all of us to have more respect for what we're doing, and, you know, stop treating it as like something that's like half done and like in the progress, because we are all, you know, works in progress. But like, it's important to be like, no, this is an art form. Hello everyone, this is what we're doing. Like, right. Get on my page, you know.
I think it's the collective mentality. We're all not tuned in, right? I feel like, you know, one of the things that I've noticed in third world countries is that, you know, the fact that they don't follow any traffic lights. Like, they don't follow any traffic lights because they don't need something else to let them know that it's good to go. Like, they're just all in tune, and it's less accidents that way. And it looks chaotic, right? Because no one's following the rules, but everyone is in tune. If everyone is in tune with the mentality of like, yo, we just want the best for each other and to push each other, no one's gonna complain. No one will ever feel like, oh, like, oh, that guy hurt me or whatever. No, they just want the best for me. You know what I mean? So I think we just have to be all in a collective mentality of like, yo, we're just trying to push each other. We're all just trying. I think we need to talk to each other more. You know what I mean?
I think so.
Yeah, it's really. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. Okay.
This is literally every conference call. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm just gonna really quickly say, just literally bouncing off what you said. You're right. When in the Philippines, and like only from my experience, no one follows traffic laws, and it's interesting because it's like, yeah, no one follows traffic laws, but there's less accidents that happen there than here. So it's interesting thinking about how there's this lack of formality. I think I'm using that word right, but there's this synchronicity in the mindset and of the whole thing. So it's like, and you can relate that to creative scene here in Toronto. You know what I mean? Which is really interesting. I don't know, creative scene and working with clients and labels, I guess.
It's too much like, no, you go. It's too much like, no, you go ahead. No, it's like, it's, you know, like, I'm tired of it. You know what I mean? It's like, yo, don't make any, you're like, man, but that's my mentality, right? I'm not saying that this is for anyone, but my thing is that, yo, no one's gonna tell me, like, I went going into this because I quit my job, a really nice fucking stable job, to do this very difficult thing and to be my own thing. And you have to be able to accept the challenges that it comes with, the environment that it comes with, and you have to decide, yo, am I gonna be a part of it, or am I gonna create my own, right? Or am I gonna change it in any way? So
I also think that, you know, in conversation, there's obviously a lot of formalities, and, you know, there's certain things that maybe won't be able to, you know, change drastically in the industry, or will take a long time. And like, clearly I'm also like the person who's still learning every day. Like, maybe I'll come back in a month and be like, I'm debunking some of the things because maybe there's reasons why things are that way. However, I think like being honest is very time efficient. I think that's like the biggest motivation for me, to be honest with people, because it's literally the most time efficient thing ever. It helps you get the best result faster. If that helps to think about, I don't know.
Well, thank you guys for those answers. We're gonna jump into the comments and answer some of those questions, but just to kind of leave this off, I think that, and we're all very aware of this, I think that we should be having more conversations like this. We should be making like me and Angelica talk about this stuff all the time, and I talk to Xylk about this kind of stuff. I just think making these public, it inspires more of those conversations to happen. So why not put them on Zoom? So let's do this more. But anyways, if we want to hop into the chat, Parnika asked me a question, and I'm just going to answer it really quickly before you guys can also choose, while you guys choose the questions that you want to answer. So P, you asked me about, 1 second. Okay. How do you guys build up your brand and work so that as someone starting out can gain trust from other people to take a chance on you? In other words, how can you allow for people to take a chance on you? And the thing is, like, you can't depend, like, just like how I said, you can't wait for someone to take a chance on you, and you can't depend on anyone to take a chance on you, because you should be able to say to yourself, I'm going to be successful and no one's going to help me. So just like finding the confidence in yourself to do that. It's definitely hard work, but you can do, I don't know. I think that's how I can quickly answer that question. Sorry, Xylk.
Okay, so I'm gonna say this before I forget it, but when the t-shirts or the grocery bags started picking up, it definitely wasn't because I released it and then everyone was so into it right away. No, it was, you build small. Okay, with any brand that's starting off, like me and Angelica already said, consistent. You got to be consistent with your words, with your visuals, with everything that your brand or your personality like stands for. And based off of that core ideas, you have to build a small community, and then let the community speak for you, right? That's how you build cult like following or whatever. It's like, so for me, it's like, when I released the product, I knew that it was good because people from work, first of all, I bought it for me first. I made it for me, and I started wearing it for me, right? And then when I started wearing it for me, I performed at a high level at work, because everyone wants to buy LeBron's jersey. Okay, that's like my jersey mentality. If LeBron is killing it this season, his jersey sales are going up. No one's buying, the bench player's jersey. Okay, so people have to see that you're performing at a high level, so that they want to incorporate themselves. They see themselves within the things that you make, so they will associate and affiliate themselves with you, right? Because you're killing it. If you're killing it, they're gonna want to act. So with that thought, all my coworkers asked me, yo, where can I get that shirt? Where, like their perspective, okay? Their perspective of what the shirt is or who I am is now connected, right? Now the simple shirt is now connected to the words that Xylk stands for and his brand. So it's now affiliation. So it's like, I want that. So now once those, influence or people who are, tastemakers, let's say they work at Aritzia and they're like, yo, let me get that. Now it trickles down, right? It trickles down to everyone that follow that person. It's like a pyramid scheme, or like, or whatever. It's like, it just trickles down. The influence trickles down. So for me, it's like, you got to start small. Focus on a small community, and then let that community speak for you, right? So you don't have to be like, yo, can you do this? Can you do this? No. And then at some point, you're gonna need to break your ties from your friends. The moment my friends stopped buying my stuff and I was able to eat off of it, is when I'm able to be like, okay, like I've built a community, and now I don't have to ask I never did to be like, oh, go buy my stuff. But once I noticed that their actions didn't necessarily like, have to purchase my stuff anymore, I knew that I was in a good place. I was in the right track, on the right track.
Mm-hmm.
So
I know this isn't a question someone else is asking, but I think this question can relate to a lot of people who are also just starting out. So, you made the bags and they were a hit. You did the music video, Angelica, and it was great. So what's next? Like I sound like someone from a TV show, but like, how do you challenge yourself to know that the next thing you're gonna make is going to be is going to be consistent with what people found interesting about you in the first place as a director?
Well, see, it's hard because it's like, it's still a collaboration, so it has to make sense within the the world of the artist you're making the video with. So I think like I try not to think too much about like, oh, how it fits into my world. Like I can craft the layout of the whatever the app that I'm using to promote my stuff, like Instagram, for example. Like, yeah, like I can try to make the colors consistent with like BTS or whatever, but that's not the first thing I think about. Like I think about the artist, and I think about how do we elevate their brand? Like what are they trying to tell the story? What is the audience that they're trying to break into? Like what's important to them? Like what was their past? Like the number of times like I would just like start talking about why you wrote the song, because I shout out to my sister, she's watching this, I think she was just messaging me. I started making music videos because we lived together, and just started writing, and I just started shooting, and we would just like shoot videos in a bathtub with like rose petals and like I don't know, like coconut milk or whatever, just like, and some gels I brought from school, and it was fun. And that was amazing. And I got to learn her process, and I got to learn like how mental health affects songwriting, how songwriting affects video making, how video making affects the audiences, and then creates outreach into like some of the communities you didn't even think would react, or thought would react, but reacted differently, but still, maybe I'm talking in broad terms, but I guess to me, it always came from the artist. It always came from the point of like, how do I get their point across in the most tasteful, creative, artful way, and how do I push the money that is being allocated to make this project, to make it more than it is, So that is my thesis.
So same question for
that's
you
music videos. That's different.
Yeah, that was
music
videos.
What was the question? Sorry.
The question was basically, how do you top what you just did? How do you continue the growth? And it goes back to the whole being consistent thing.
Right. Well, I think that, again, you have to see, I have a circle of friends, Antonio, Machado, like, I value their opinion. So they have a outside perspective of what I'm doing, right? They see it from the audience's like eye. So I go to them and be like, yo, what can I do different? There's a list of things that I mentally keep to be like, okay, I'm gonna do this differently, right? One of the reasons why, there's two reasons why I did the collab with Sean Brown and Kid Studio. One was that I need that off my bucket list to like work with those things, right? So I need it off my bucket list. Second was because I sold the grinding bags to my circle. I'd be stupid to sell the next thing and not incorporate other circles, I think, right? So, I always think of what I did mentally, kind of like subconsciously, and be like, okay, then what can I do differently this time? And actually do the different, like something different. Where you're gonna, one of my goals is to like sell it in New York or LA. So just like really writing it down, write down your mistakes, write down the things that, when you write something down, your thoughts literally become real, like it's in real life. So
I right, like
exactly. So I think writing down your mistakes and things that you want to improve on is a major thing for me, at least. At least on my notes is filled with it. Yeah. How do you top something better? Like, maybe you don't have to.
I know.
It's maybe you don't have to top it. Maybe you don't have to top
what does that even? Yeah. No, you're right. I think. Okay, so somebody asked, when you implement creative designs, ideas, or using someone else's work for inspiration, how do you deal with the possibility that it might be considered plagiarism or that it might be plagiarized? So there was
I love this.
especially for so especially for like, when you watch and this, I speak upon these in broad senses, but I'm just gonna say music videos because what I can relate to the most. So I watch a music video and then I see another music video and then I'll call Angelica and be like, did you see what they did? Like, they use the exact same camera style or they use the same shot. So it's almost like, what's the difference between drawing inspiration and then plagiarism? What do you guys think?
Angelica, you speak on that first. Because...
Well. I think like we're lucky to see that there's been some history of video in the past like 100 years that there's been film and stuff, and a lot of the times you see things happening that are happening all over the world that are very similar, that come about because of like similar societal, cultural, or historical movements. And it's not necessarily people watching each other's work because they didn't have the internet back then, clearly. So sometimes it happens for no particular reason. Whoa, steal like an artist.
Yeah, steal like an artist, man. Good artists copy, great artists steal. That's Picasso.
Hang on, I'm gonna screenshot that real quick. Okay, fuck. Okay, thank you.
But I still want to say, like, it's valuable to look at it in that way and understand, like, we watch the same stuff on Instagram. We scroll through similar things, and even though we might not be like looking at someone else's video and being like, okay, like I want this exact framing with this exact lighting and focus exact emotion. Sometimes we're just affected by very similar narratives, and that's why it's important to broaden it so that maybe you're affected by less of the same thing that everyone else is affected by. So it's tricky because specifically to look at something and be like, I want to copy it, it's challenging because like it's probably going to be worse than the original. So like, what's the point? but I think there's, get inspired, like, but bring your own thing into, like, really put it through your whole system and dig up those like childhood traumas or something and just like put a spin on that, whatever you're trying to like get inspired by it, you know, like not to be negative.
Right. Okay. So I have I think two major points to this topic. One is that everything has been done before. Nothing is original. Get over yourselves. Okay. So that's my thing, right? If you think something is original, talk to the person who made it, and you'll find out that they got it from somewhere. Again, going back to my thesis, they observed somewhere, like something somewhere from somewhere, and they brought it to a new audience. Now you think as an audience it's creative, but really it's been derived from a bunch of other things, right? That's what makes something creative and unique, is because you weren't aware of it. You weren't aware of it, but the person, the designer and the creator, brought it to your attention. Okay, so nothing is ever. So I think it's an ego thing, right?
Yeah.
No one is ever copying you. No one is ever thinking. No, for me, here's the thing. The second thing is that I came into this game, to this creative field, wanting to influence the game, to change the game. Now, you know, someone asked me this the other day. It's like, yo, what are you gonna do if someone does a grocery bag? Fucking great. Like, I can't wait for someone to do a grocery bag. It's because my goal is to influence the community. If no one is copying me, then they don't give a fuck. Right? I'm not doing anything right. So get it out of your head that someone's copying you, right? You have to think that, yo, am I here to get money, or am I here to influence the fucking community? Like, I'm here to influence the community. Be like, yo, this is the mindset that I'm on. If you'd like to join me, yo, fuck, the more the better. You know what? And one thing too, don't be afraid to let go of ideas. Of bad ideas or good ideas. Don't be afraid to let go of your ideas, because at the end of the day, it's like, for me, I can move on to the next idea. You know what I mean? It's like, if I see,
and that's your challenge as a creative person. Yeah.
And
that's the challenge you're given with so much creative responsibility. It's like, now your challenge, what's the next thing you're gonna make that someone's gonna say, I wish I made that first.
Man,
or I wish I did that first, right?
No, honestly, it's like a lot of people are too the assholes are too tight and being like, yo, this is my thing. No, man, like, it goes back to the point, like, you're allowed to grow. You know, for me, it's like, great idea. Like, the one thing that you can't copy, you can copy the bag from me, but you can't copy the way I think. Like, that's the one thing that I know. You know what I mean? So, yo, well, if this company, or who had, like, whatever, this big company copies a grocery bag, I'll just be like, okay, you could have just hired me. I could have been solving all your creative problems for you. Not the bag is just an answer to the problem. You know what I mean? Like, generate these answers, maybe. Like, just hire us. Just hire us. You know.
And
just
also,
no, go.
It's such a like random metaphor, but like, coming, like, you know, it's easy to see on Instagram, like, people are working together, and then like other people are working together, and it's like, oh, like, but I want to like work with those people too. And it's like, oh, there's projects that, you know, sometimes come out and you're like, well, I didn't even get a chance to like pitch on it. But like, you know, if you really believe in the fact that you are putting yourself, like, you're putting your 100% into projects, like, if you believe that, I think it's important to realize, like, sometimes there will be situations when you won't be invited to like a table, and that's fine. And also sometimes, you know, think about it.
Make your own table. You know what I'm saying? Fuck it.
Exactly. Like, people will realize that, like, you know, if you bring true value, they'll realize that something is missing. And don't be afraid to let people go off and do their own thing, because, you know, they'll realize that they're missing you or something. All that, like, you had some really honest, creative ideas. But like, it's fine. Like, people will always work in weird patterns, and it's never about you. People are like in so much in their worlds, just like work on you, and like the rest will follow.
Exactly, yo. And that answers the last question. You know, honestly, just focus on you, man. Focus on you. Focus on the companies. Like, we're asking the wrong questions when it comes to that. Like,
so that was the last question. I'm just gonna have, like, this is my closing ceremony. There are some questions that I felt like were kind of answered in other questions. That's why I didn't ask them. But okay, so closing statements, like, I guess Xylk and Angelica, what is kind of something that you want to say to all the creative people in this chat right now that you kind of want to close this conversation off with?
Fuck, man. Do what you love and let it kill you, man. That's it. Like, that's just my mentality, man. Like, for me, it's like I've been comfortable enough. You know what I mean? Like, I chose to do this for me. This is the path that I chose for myself. So I'm not gonna complain if there's obstacles and stuff. You just gotta have to deal with it. Now, if you have problem like with as far as like tools and what to use and how do you do that, then I invite anyone to come message me directly and be like, yo, I have questions for this, or what do you do for this? But at the end of the day, for me, I want you guys to get from this conversation is the fact that, to be creative just means observing something and bringing it to a new audience, you know what I mean? And be unapologetic, man. Like, don't wait for nothing. Like, don't wait for approval. Don't wait, ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. You know what I mean? Just be like, yo, my bad. That's why all these images, yo, my bad. You know what I mean? Like, like going back to plagiarism thing, like, there's a line that you have to cross. I'm like 1 inch right below it. You know what I mean? It's like I'm pushing it there, but I'm just trying to prove what my mind can do, right? You don't have to prove it with anything else, but the fact that, yo, what your mind can do, like, that's the thing people are here for. You know what I mean? So, I implore everyone to go get it, like, aggressively and unapologetically. Like, that's my.
I 100% vouch. My thing would probably be very similar, slightly different. Take responsibility. Like, take responsibility for what's coming out of our city, what's coming out of you, and I do the same, and we all keep each other accountable. Take the responsibility. If like someone is clearly being ridiculous about the work ethic, be responsible. Like, call it out. It's in our hands to make a difference, and no matter how big or small, like, right now we're obviously all in our houses, like, chilling and trying to like improve and work on ourselves and like work on our craft. But like, there's so much power in being responsible for, yourself and your art and like your community and the art form. So don't be afraid to take responsibility.
Yeah, man. If you have, if you're blocked on like inspiration, man, just get uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Just find other things. Like, do something that you put yourself in a situation where you're like, yo, I've never done this before. I've never been here before. And you'll find a new perspective. It's all about perspective. You know what I mean? So,
my closing statements. Sorry. My closing statements are just thank you everyone for coming and wanting to be a part of this conversation. I see a lot of people wanting more of this kind of stuff, but like, yo, you make that topic. Just like Xylk said, make your own table. So what Angelica said to me the other day and talking to Xylk the other day, that excited me. That made me want to do this Zoom call. So I want to see some of you make your own Zoom calls about conversations that you want to have. And like, that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to keep this kind of inspirational ball rolling.
Yeah.
But anyways, I linked Angelica and Xylk's Instagram, so you guys will follow them, ask them all the questions you want. Oh yeah, and my Instagram, so you should, ask me questions if you want to as well. But anyways, thank you everybody so much, and bye. Have a great rest of your weekend. Bye. Peace.
Jeez, look at all this. Hey, that was sick.
Hang on, I'm gonna call you back.
That was sick. Mikayla, that was sick. You did a good job. Mikayla, hey, you did a good job. Guess what? You did a good job.
Thanks, man.
Are you you're like Nardwar. You're like a light-skinned Nardwar, eh? Nardwar.
Okay, I'm gonna end this. I'll call you Angelica back. Bye, everybody.